Welcome to All Four Downs. I am Joe Aguirre, part of the CMG Podcast Network. We're so excited to be with you today. We have a very special guest. He's a former NFL football player, a CEO, business owner, a best-selling author, and life coach. His name is Shawn Murphy. He grew up on the south side of Columbus, Ohio. He had to overcome failure, adversity, and learning disabilities. We'll dive into some of that. He discovered the secrets to unlocking the winning edge. That's the name of his book. He speaks about it all over the world, training others to win in business and in life, which is really important and a little bit different, and we'll get into that. Shawn is the author of The Winning Edge. He's also an investor, CEO, and he's the founder of American Services Protection in Columbus, Ohio, and Bridge Builders International. He serves on the board of King's Ransom Foundation. Actively involved in his church, a loving husband, family man, and father. We are blessed to have this guy on the show today, the fourth round pick of the Rams back in 1992, Shawn Harper. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, our producer extraordinaire, Ovi Muniz. Glad you booked this. And Shawn, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Let's win. I really appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to work with me. I'm doing a podcast in my car. I've never done that before, but you know what? I just love you guys' flexibility. So I know that this is going to be a great show.
Now, you're quite an inspiring story because, again, you grew up with not a whole lot. You got bullied. You ended up at Indiana University, which I think helped you get drafted, but you had to get to a community college to get there. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like growing up there and making it to the NFL? It's an incredible story.
So born and raised on the south side of Columbus, Ohio. Was hit with insurmountable odds, almost day one. Remember being actually physically abused by my father, who left me, a year or two later, thank God. But my mom had to raise all six of us all by herself. And from there, I'm just going to slide where you can see that ray of sun. From there, I was hit with, educational challenges, being documented with, 4 to 5 learning disabilities, being kicked out of, several schools, or 2 schools, for disciplinary issues. Stuttering my entire life, leaving high school with a 1.62 cumulative GPA, not on my ACT, graduating dead last in my class, and I promise you, people's negative or low expectations of you, that kind of exudes like Wi-Fi. I would hear things like, "Oh, that's just Shawn," low expectation, not really seeing myself at that next level. Barely starting in high school football. I wasn't even honorable mention all conference. It was crazy. And then from there, I get a phone call from a junior college in Iowa, in Mason City, Iowa. And I'm invited to go to the cornfields of Iowa. Now, I'm from Columbus. I'm from the south side. I'm from the hood. I'm a hood kid. And here I am. I'm going to the cornfields. Mason City, it's like 26,000 blonde hair, blue eyes. Everyone's last name is Schneider. Okay. I'm up in the cornfields of Iowa. And the first year at that junior college, I sit the bench the entire season, not one play. And
wow.
Going into the second year, I had sort of an interesting conversation with myself. And the conversation was, okay, Shawn, according to the success model, you will never be successful. You don't have the grades. You suck at football. You don't have, the connections. You might not be the right skin color. Just all these, reasons why, it's okay to have a mediocre life. And I made a paradigm. And the paradigm was, you're right. I can't be successful, but I can win. And the moment I said win, it was like a switch clicked in my psyche, and I felt my DNA, things begin to like cut on, like all over, like click, 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 click. It was just like these generators. And I started looking at life differently. In fact, I want to challenge your guest sometime to just close their eyes and say the word success, and then while your eyes close, 10 seconds later, say the word win. Your body responds to win because you were created to win. In fact, if you're listening to me, you are a winner. You were the one sperm that fertilized the egg out of millions. Okay. It wasn't about success, wasn't about looking good. It was about winning, which is why we're so enamored with sports, winning. We're so enamored with gambling, winning. We're so enamored with video games, winning. Everything I mentioned is $1 billion industry. Why? Because our DNA is set up to win. And when I tapped into that, I began to conquer opportunity after opportunity, taking it from playing professional football to the corporate world, and then speaking, now investing, and I'm using the same model. And my phrase or my motto is, if life is a game, you play it to win.
It's a fantastic motto, and certainly makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I think I'm a big history guy, and I've been reading a lot about just the origins of humans. And I mean, 11,000 years ago, we were still hunter gatherers. It was still about winning. I mean, you had to win every day. You had to catch something to eat for dinner.
Right.
That's just built in us. I mean, that is it's a beautiful thing. So, all right, now you're on the bench at a junior college. This is not going well. I mean, so you get this conversation with yourself. What happens that day and every day going? I mean, I mean, what year is this?
This was 87. This is going into 88 now.
All right, so 4 years later, you're in the NFL. How? I mean, what you said to yourself is the greatest conversation it sounds like anyone's ever had.
Yeah, so when you think of winning, your mind kind of shifts. So you're looking at getting to the end, getting to your objective at any cost. When you think of the word success, immediately, subconsciously, you're thinking of there's a set of rules, tactics, or strategies that you are to implement that someone has given to you to become successful. But when you think of winning, it's like, oh, okay. What's the rules? Okay, I got them. How can I bend them? How can maybe I can break them? Whatever I got to do to get to the end, I'm going to get to the end. I'm going to win. So let me give you an example of what I did, and I think that's kind of where you're leaning. I left Columbus April of that year. Finished the first year of junior college. I left Columbus. I came back to Columbus, then I left, and I went back to Iowa, and I'm in a dorm room all by myself. There's one other kid in a wheelchair, and I'm in a dorm by myself. And I am practicing twice a day, taking summer classes, because I realized that all the other kids at all the other junior colleges throughout the country, they're home, laying up under mom, eating spaghetti, getting fat, not in shape. When camp starts, I'm going to have a 3 to 4 month edge. Winners think about words like edge and how to get the strategic advantage. Something else I did. The average caseload is 15 hours. I took 22 hours in one semester. I had night classes every day of the week in the fall playing football because I realized that most of the junior college athletes were coming out in June. If I came out in December with an associate's degree, I'm about 30% more marketable. I'm going to do it. Anything to give me the strategic advantage, that's what I did. I graduated within a year and a half, and I was very appealing to a Big Ten university, Indiana, and they flew me and gave me a full scholarship. Winners do what other people won't do. Winners do what people are not willing to do. And so making and shifting that mindset has afforded and allowed me to win in almost any arena.
Well, I like to add on to what you were just saying. And before I do, I'd like to show the viewers the book, The Winning Edge. And you're the author. And you see all these tabs. I mean, I was taking notes, Shawn, and I wasn't lying to you. But the one thing that you mentioned also that a lot of people, especially the youths, they don't understand when to disengage the negativity. You mentioned something about the people that you were surrounded with that they kept saying negative things like you wouldn't do this, even your friends that they were supposed to be so-called friends, they were dissing you and everything else. How were you able to just like get away from that and still follow your path?
Well, one of the things that I had to learn and realize, and I'm still realizing today, is that everyone can't go. Everyone, you know, your pursuit is like the space shuttle. You get so high in the air, you have to release the right rocket boosters, the left rocket boosters, because what got you here won't get you there. Everyone can't go. And I realize that associations are so important to your wins in life. And I had to make a hard decision, a hard choice. Everyone can't go. In fact, when I was playing football, I would notice that the players who would bring all their friends from, their hood where they grew up with, they never made it, or they rarely made it. Or they had, maybe the second, third year, he kicked them all out the house, all these guys out the house, so that he can stay focused and get new associations and new friends and win at that level.
Yeah, I talk to, I mean, as a broadcasting instructor, the big thing I talk to my students about is, look at, it is a hard business to get into. You need people around you who are going to be supportive and who believe in what you're doing, or you're not going to be able to succeed. You're not going to be able to overcome, here's what happens a lot, Shawn, with broadcasting students. After like a year, they go and sell insurance because the wife or the girl, I mean, your mom, somebody's on your case. You go get a job. You got to get some money in your pocket. Making $8 an hour at the radio station is just not cutting it, and I see it a lot where these guys end up walking away from the business, something they dreamed of their entire lives. It's a horrible thing, but if you don't have a good support base around you, get rid of the support base. You're better off on your own.
And that's another thing that he mentioned, Shawn, and if you could elaborate more, the 3D effects, the distraction, the deception, the division. You even mentioned in the book, you had a vision, and sometimes we get off track. Even if there's no other negative, there's always other things, other obstacles that we face, and if you could explain to viewers your 3D effects about division, distraction, deception.
Yeah. So as you begin to move towards your purpose, your vision, and your destiny or your goal, right? Those 3Ds you have to be extremely mindful of, because they come in small packages. They're very, just very deceptive. Let's just take a half step this way. Let's cheat a little bit on this day. Let's find an actual detour to your destiny that way. And I promise you, I have seen so many amazing athletes get derailed over one incident, or maybe they're hanging with their gang, 1 foot, basketball team, 1 foot hanging with their gang, or they're just hanging with people who are, have that just low level thinking. And sooner or later, through association, through energy, they pull you, or that deception will give you the false sense of moving towards your destiny when you're not. Oh, I don't have to have the best grades to get into college, and I can loaf off and still play a Division I football. I'm dealing with somebody right now, and I'm trying to tell this kid, you can't play D1 football loafing around in practice. These scouts, these coaches, they're watching this. Oh no, man, I'm projected to be all state. I'm like, watch. Kid got 0 scholarship offers. Deception. Distractions. So you have to watch those. You have to watch the 3Ds every step you take. And I tell you, the best way to watch it, honestly, is you need somebody watching you. You need somebody watching over you. You need a mentor or someone that's outside of your game, looking into your game of life and saying, hey, you're making a wrong decision with that relationship. Hey, you need to knuckle down on your books. Hey, you need to stop going out to these parties and stay focused. You have to have somebody in your life for that. You have to have that coach. You have to have that mentor. And yes, as you mentioned earlier, you have to have someone who believes in you and supports you and is down for you. That to me is just as important than all the other ones, because you will come up against adversity. You will come against people who are like naysayers, and I call them campers or quitters instead of climbers. You will come up against that. And you have to be able to pull from something or someone to give you a little bit more inertia to make it to your destiny. Mine was my mother. My mom always believed in me, and she'd always say, "Son, baby, God told me that you're going to be a household name." I'm like, "Wow, Mom." She said, "Keep pushing." And in my darkest moments, I would think of Mom.
When mom tells you you're going to be a household name, that's a lot to live up to, I could imagine, but certainly
Yeah.
motivation. Is your mom still with you?
She suffered a heart attack and a stroke. She is on 24-hour bed care at home, at her house. She has nurses, but you know what? I go down there almost every other day, and I just sit with her, and I feed her. I help change her. That's crazy, right? Oh man, but I love it. I think it's one of the most honorable things. A, it's probably one of the most honorable things a kid can do is to take care of their parents, not stick them up and hide them away some way, somewhere, chasing after that success.
Well, that person that gave you life and gave you all the motivation you needed to do what you had to do. I mean, yeah, right. That
Yeah,
what a great sense of that's my person. I gotta take
Mm.
care of that. That's a
yes,
beautiful thing, and everything I know about you, Shawn, that doesn't surprise me one bit. I'm sorry to hear about her health issues, obviously, but
yeah,
you are really an incredible guy. So let's talk a little bit about what it is that you do on a daily basis as a motivational speaker and as somebody who's a businessman and so all right. I'm not even worried about football right now, right? You did football, you played here, you did there,
yeah,
NFL Europe, and
yeah,
then it was time to hang them up. We
yeah.
could talk some more football in a minute, but you didn't become a big successful football player.
No,
So I
you know what?
assume around I think 98 you finish up
Yeah,
NFL Europe and it's like
yeah,
I got to do something with my life now, right? I got to do what mom said and become a household name.
yeah. So I wasn't that marquee name of a professional athlete, but I was successful because I made it. And 0.02% of any athlete is in the NFL for 1 year. But also, it's a part of my win because now I'm taking the fact that I played NFL, no matter how much or how little, doesn't matter. And now I'm using that as marketing and branding to get probably 95% of all my engagements to like, hey, you're a former NFL football player. So I'm going to leverage the heck out of that until I can't leverage it no more. I'm gonna be 65 years old walking around with an NFL pin on. Why? Because it's probably one of the most recognized and most popular and most successful brands in the world. One of the things I've learned is that life is really about leverage. And I need everyone to really hear. I just need people to. In fact, I think I'm gonna write a book on this. Life is about leverage, you know, and how do you leverage what you have and who you know to get to where you have to go? How do you leverage that for the win? So I'm leveraging the NFL. I'm leveraging the fact that I'm a business owner. I am leveraging the fact that I have a very blessed family and I've learned how to extract. I am leveraging my network. I am leverage and one of the things I realized is that where people really get discontent is or maybe even distraught is when they're in their late 40s and 50s and they're just trying to hang on and they're trying to make ends meet and they're trying to ride this thing into the sunset. They got to take all this crap from their boss. They don't want to work there, but they're leveraged out with the mortgage. They're leveraged out with that nice car. They're leveraged out with debt and they're imprisoned because of that. And they don't have the freedom. They've lost their leverage. And so you have to learn how to always look to build leverage in whatever you do. So that is something that I've learned to do is to create, maintain, and build leverage and winning networks. And I'm going to challenge your listeners to look at every connection, every opportunity, every job, differently and always fight for your leverage.
What I've noticed that you have a lot of leverage compared to everyone else in the NFL. You also mentioned in the book that about 2 or 3% of NFL players, when they leave the organization, they only last for so many years and then they end up being broke. And us as fans, when we look at NFL players, only the stars, we still see on television, whether they're broadcasting, doing analytics and stuff like that. You have become a household name, like we mentioned, your mom saying it, Joe's been mentioning it. And look, we don't even see what everybody else's everyday life, but we get to see Shawn Harper, what he has done in the NFL and transitioning to another career. So I want to say congratulations on your success.
Thank you for that. But also, there are a ton of winning former professional athletes. In fact, if you want to, do a quick search, you can go to LinkedIn, go under search, type in NFL. Yeah, just type in NFL, and of course you get, I'm coaching, but then I'm a CEO, I'm an executive, or own my own company. I get them every day. I'm like, man, I'm so proud of you. There are tons of them out there. Unfortunately, there are a lot of athletes who are impoverished. They're broke. They've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of financial mistakes, because they got caught up in the success and they didn't focus on the win. And the win is bigger than the NFL. The win is your life. And if they were focused on the win, maybe, they would have took about, $500,000 and put it into, some small investment, real estate, crypto. It's going to carry them through for the next 10 and 15 years. But what's so awesome about the win is that you can lose all 4 quarters and still win the game. You can win the game in the last 10, 15 minutes. Unfortunately, you can also lose it in the last 10 or 15 minutes. So the game is always on.
You were talking about leverage a little while ago, and as soon as you got there, I was like, oh yeah, duh, right? He's gonna say he's former NFL player Shawn Harper, and nobody can ever take that away from you, that you did achieve what is practically the impossible as far as most people are concerned. I mean, right? Millions of guys have played football. Very few have actually ever made it to the NFL. Right. And again, with the backstory that you have, I mean, to leverage that into, hey, I can do this, right? I have an inspiring story, and it's something that I can tell other people. And I mean, I'm a big fan of that. I talk to people about that all the time, how to leverage what your skill set is, or, whatever your unfortunate situation might be. I've actually been counseling a kid right now who's doing a podcast. He's autistic, and it's again, what he's doing and what he's been able to accomplish. I mean, again, just by having the podcast is a win. He's a podcaster. He started one, and, it's pretty good. But even if it wasn't, it wouldn't matter. He did it, and you're so right when you talk about, I mean, what is success? What is it that you're trying to do? We just this past weekend rather, saw 7 rounds of guys going into the NFL. And we could say probably comfortably the guys in rounds 1 and 2, 3 probably will be in the NFL for at least a couple of years, few years. Some of them will go on to greatness. But for most of the guys, including some guys in rounds 1 right up through 7, you're fighting for your life right now. And this is your skill set. I mean, the win is you're there. But it doesn't stop now. Every day you have to go out there and win in practice and win in the games, regardless of the scoreboard. You have to go out there, the idea of meeting expectations is what success is. You have to at least meet expectations every single day. And I it's funny, you being an offensive lineman, I think about for people who don't understand football, how integral the offensive line is. I was a running back in high school, and you're the glory, right? You get all the, hey, this guy's great.
Right.
I was just telling somebody the other day, I remember the first time a hole opened up in front of me. And after I broke this runoff, I remember thinking to myself, oh God, that was them. They won that right there. They won their assignment, and there was nobody in front of me. Not because I'm a great runner, but because those guys won.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I mean, I think for these young guys who are picks 3rd round through 7th round, what would you say to these guys to make them understand that, you know, you're there, it's a win, be happy that you got there, but you got to stay there now? How do they do that?
It's you have to encourage and teach them how to play the long game. And that's number one. Number two, I think it is incumbent upon us as former NFL athletes to forge that reality in there, because everybody and their mama, even their mama, you're going to play forever. You're going to be a champ. You're going to be a star. And it's like, oh my God, you know, I mean, coaches, oh man, you're going to be around the next 15 years. Commentators, he has a great future playing professional football. Don't you think, Harold? Oh yeah. And that's not the case. One injury. I've seen a guy who got hurt, who was an amazing athlete. I'll never mention his name. He got hurt. He never played the game again. Just like that. It's over. Everything that he planned for and built around is over. So the long game says, okay, this is a great start. I got a leg up in the race. Now, how do I leverage this? How do I build from this? How do I, massage this to get to the next level, or to continue the momentum, which is another word, once I'm finished, or it's finished with me.
All right. So we didn't quite finish the story now. You go from junior college to Indiana. You've had this conversation with yourself. You're all fired up. How does a guy who was sitting the bench in junior college end up in the NFL 4 years later?
So I go to Indiana, and they try me out a defensive lineman. I don't like it. They redshirt me. And, kids are laughing, and, I don't know why we even and I started all over again. I'm at the bottom of the barrel again. And I started working my way back up to the top, all the way back up through the ranks. I started doing what they weren't doing. In fact, once I went to Indiana, I probably spent a total of 30 days home. When I received my scholarship at Indiana, from spring of '89 to the day I left IU, I may have spent a total of 30 days. Maybe. I lived on IU campus full time, in summer, all summer, taking summer courses, doing the same thing, out working the competition, out thinking differently, processing. I had some of the worst feet. My feet are so flat, they're like you can't even play football. I did 2,000 or 3,000 skips a day just to have some of the best feet. So that's how I started from the bottom, and I looked at what they taught us, and I found some other things, and I just outworked you.
So the day that you get drafted, where were you, and what was that moment like, and who did you get to share it with?
So let me back up for a second. Everywhere I've went, I've always had exceptional running backs. When I was at junior college, my running back had 1,900 yards. In high school, my running back, I think, had 19 or 2,000 yards. College, my running back was a Heisman candidate, Von Dunbar, and he had about 2,000 yards, right? So, of course, when they say, okay, this guy got 2,000 yards, who is on the offensive line that's helped making this happen? And eventually, they kind of circled over to me. So I think that kind of gave me the notoriety. On to your question about draft day. I remember I get a call from offensive line coach. He's like, this is such and such from the Rams. Are you ready? We're going to take you. I'm like, let's go for it. They announced my name. I'm excited. I'm happy. Phone's ringing. And I had my best friend with me, and we did something very chill, just me and him, no one else around. And I just got in the car and I just drove over to Red Lobster with the Red Lobster. I remember that, and we ordered up some seafood, crab, me and him, and I just kept the phone off, and we just talked about it and had some toast, and we really, just a little private celebration. And I think within a couple of days, I'm on a plane. I'm flying into Orange County, and
Nice.
it's camp time. Yeah, it was
Nice.
crazy. It was crazy. Yeah.
Tell me what the phone call to your mom was like, though, because now I'm super curious how that went.
It was. I think she knew before I even called. I think they were watching. I think they were.
It's called mother's instinct right there.
It was like she yelled, she screamed. I mean, the Rams is an amazing organization. They really took care of mom. They sent flowers and this and that, and hey, congratulations, Miss Harper. And, they did a great job. And so I called her. I guess about 10 minutes later, and she was just blown away, and she was excited, and that's it.
Shawn, I have another member of our show, Sean Scanlon, who's just joining us, and Shawn had a couple of questions he wanted to ask you before he goes. Go ahead, Shawn.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I thought we were going on at 8:00, but it's a pleasure to meet you and talk to you, Shawn. Just following up with the Rams, I was wondering, when you first got there, one of your teammates, obviously you're on the practice squad, but you get to learn from Jackie Slater, a Hall of Famer and an all-time great tackle, one of the greats. And obviously it was at the end of his career. He's super experienced at that point, and you guys play the same position. So I was just kind of wondering, what kind of tips and pointers did he give you, and what was it like learning from an all-time great in Jackie Slater?
So I learned more about life. There's two guys who taught me so much about the game of life. One was Jackie Slater, and another team that I was on that kind of flew under the radar and it's not on most people's records was the Houston Oilers. And I sat under Bruce Matthews, and I just learned so much from these wise offensive tackles. Tell you a story about Jackie, that he would always come to practice with a suit and tie on. Sometimes he wore a collared shirt, but he always had a suit jacket on. Now, us players, we come to practice, and, we're leaving the club the night before, and maybe our little girlfriend's house or whatever, and we just rolled out of bed, breath stinking, flip-flops, just go to practice, right? Jackie'd always come in with his sunglasses on, wool 140 suits. Finally, I asked him, what are you doing? And he's like, Brother Harper, that's how he talked. Brother Harper is business. It's always business. And what that taught me is that he had the right perspective of the game. He had the right perspective. And, if you watch football, you got 4 to 5 different perspectives happening at the same time. You have the fans, they have a perspective. The players have a perspective. The coach has a perspective. The owners have a perspective. Everyone has a different perspective of the same game. And if you don't have the right perspective of that of a upper management or an owner, you begin to make decisions, right or wrong, off of the perspective that you have. And a lot of people get caught up because they're making the wrong decisions because they have the wrong perspective. He always taught me that. Find out what the proper perspective is, and you keep it.
I like the advice that you give, Shawn, because one of the questions, and I think most of your messages already throughout this whole entire podcast, is not only from our peers, but the youth also watching the show. And I like to present a Speaking It Real podcast who asked the question, and I share it, but we've been doing this throughout the whole entire show, is what would you advise to today's youth and players? And I think you nailed it all the way. Everything's about perspective. It's a business and everything. And I like the quote that you also used in the book is, it took a lot of pain and a lot of perseverance, but I became a 7-year professional football player. I mean, you pretty much nailed it right there. Is there anything else that you would like to share to the youth and everybody else? Because like I said, I mean, there's so many youths that you mentioned before. They think they're there and everything else, but they don't really understand what they're getting into.
Get back on the bike. That is my parting shot. Is every youth that's hearing me, every human that's hearing me, who knows how to ride the bike or a bike, and they have their hand raised like, yes, I can ride a bike. Remind yourself how'd you learn. Remind yourself how'd you learn how to ride that bike. You learn by getting on the bike, somebody pushing you, and you falling, and you fall, and you fall, and you get up, and you cry, and your knees get cut and scraped, and people are laughing, and you keep pedaling, and within 3 to 4 days, you're like, Mommy, I'll be back. I'm going around the block. You got to get back on the bike. The average millionaire has filed for bankruptcy 3.5 times. What would have happened when they said, Shawn, you'll never play in the NFL? What would have happened when my English teacher said, don't worry about college? Had I listened? Had my assistant football coach said, you are not Division I football material? When my high school coach kicked me off the team, he said, get out of here. In front of every player, he humiliated me. And I walked back about 5 minutes later, and I looked that coach in the eye and said, you will never make me quit. Man, what would have happened any of those times had I just said, okay, I'm done? Wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be on this podcast.
No, and I'm glad you have, man, because, you know, without you, we wouldn't have this show right now. So, but I'm really happy. Shawn, thank you so much. And like I said, and I'm going to share this even with my peers. And I told you before, I'm a school teacher, and we teach this to the youth. We teach this, and that's a ongoing thing here, and at least in the state of Connecticut, that social emotional learning is very important to teach to our youths, especially elementary level. Because I know when I was little, I didn't have all these classes that they give now. You know, talking about bully. You know, we were raised in different ways. Like, God forbid that I was bullied and I didn't do nothing about it. My mom and my dad probably whipped my ass. I mean, look, if you don't stand up and defend yourself, then we're going to whip your ass and you'll learn.
Yes. You will learn today.
Absolutely. Joe?
Shawn, what an absolute pleasure it was to talk to you. ShawnHarper.org is the website if you want to hire this guy to come be a motivational speaker. I know Ovi's a huge fan after reading the book. I'm going to have to hit that up next. He's on Twitter at ShawnHarper75 and on Instagram, Shawn Harper Speaker.
And guess what? If you go to ShawnHarper.co, I'll give you a free copy of my book. It's an ebook. It's a free copy.
Well, Shawn, guess what? You're going to owe me an autograph because I got it right here.
No problem.
No, thank you so much. Like I said, I know we work countless ways to try to meet up, and always our schedule always conflicting and everything else. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much once again. Please don't go yet. For the viewers, we got one more thing. Once again, follow Shawn Harper on Twitter, ShawnHarper075. You can check out website, and you can follow all the information on hhwshow.com. So check it out.